Well, good day everybody and welcome to African American Male and Contemporary Society. We'll be discussing today the book Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I am your host, Zipporah Genyard, and I'm joined today with my classmates Fiona Alexander and Danielle Gervais. If you want to introduce yourself real quick, your name, major, whatever you want to say.
My name is Fiona. As she said before, I'm 21 years old, criminal justice major, and I'm taking this AFN class to learn a little bit more about society.
Daniel, and I'm taking this class because I find the topic very interesting, and I love this book by Coates. So.
Well, yeah, it's a really good book. So we're going to be talking today about themes and topic in the book. We're going to talk a little about love, a little bit about the will of the father, a little bit about education. So just for our classmates and our professor, we like to talk about the book real quick. Ta-Nehisi Coates. This book came out in July 2015. It won the 2015 National Book Award for Nonfiction. It was also a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize for general, nonfiction books. So I think that's really profound to say.
Right, and it was one of the books selected for a contestant for the book selected for
One Book, One New York City.
One Book, One New York City.
Yeah. Very common one. Yeah. Okay, so I think let's just dive right in. We're going to talk about, I'll begin with love, and we'll go from there.
Sure.
So what is the role of love in this book? The role of love is not just, it's a teaching point that I believe Coates uses to show importance to each part of his life. The book is set up in 3 different parts, and in each part 1, part 2, part 3, he brings up about love. So he brings up love for the Mecca, for Howard University, and how being there and being surrounded by Black people that he's never met before, never experienced, really changed his life for the better and really taught him things that he could never have gotten anywhere else. Also talk about love for his son Samori Turi. Not Samori Turi, but Samori Coates. Even in the name Samori, he named him after someone, a very prominent Ghanaian figure. He challenged French imperialism. He helped build that country. I'm going to talk specifically about, there's a point in the book where he's with his wife that he has now, and he talks about how when they found out that he was pregnant, that Samori wasn't planned, it wasn't something that they, said that they were going to have. But, they were like, okay, it's now my time to be a father. I'm going to step up to the plate. I'm going to do right by her, whatever. And the mother of the wife comes to visit them in their apartment where they're living. And, it's like, any other visit you get from the wife of your mother. It's whatever. Mm-hmm. And they're not doing well financially, and they're just, making it by. And when he is dropping off the mother at the airport, and she turns to him and says, "You do right by my daughter," It's in that moment where he begins love for Samori. He realizes that he's not just having to be, but he has to love his son, because it's not just about being a father. He takes
his love to another level at that point, because he starts to realize that his responsibility is not just to love, but to protect, to guide. It's kind of like him becoming. He was already in his manhood, but now realizing that he has a child coming in the world, and he has a responsibility to respect not only his wife, but her family, and everything else that's represented around them when bringing a child into this world.
Yeah, because it's a lot to be said about men and Black men, and with the role of the father. It's not just about being and doing. It's not just about, okay, you need money for this, here it is, you need someone to do this. It's also being, showing them that love and that affection, so they know that, okay, I know this is my example of love in my life.
It kind of relates also to, if you've ever read the book Fences.
Yes,
in comparison to Fences, you would see that he has a different type of relationship with his son, especially in making this book. Because in Fences, you see that the role of a father figure in a Black person's life, at least in that aspect, is just to provide. Whereas Ta-Nehisi, he's taken it to a next level, where not only is he providing it, but he's structuring it. He doesn't want his son to be lost. And the book speaks of many different angles and points where you can see how the lack of the role of the father figure speaks volumes, and he's trying to change that.
Absolutely.
For instance, he talks about when there are people, the people on the street, and he was speaking about how the gangsters on the street, they show their fear of reality and things happening around them by wearing their puffy coats and you can see that disruption of non-love all around them, the fear.
And not only that, I think just the fact that the book is taken from a perspective speaking to his son, trying to teach him how to grow up and be black in America. You know, it shows not only that he's trying to educate his son, which ties into education and the role of a father, but it shows a love. He's like, these are my experiences. This is what happened to me while I was growing up, and you have to have your own experiences. But he's trying to provide the best life he possibly can for his son, which I think speaks volumes about the use of love throughout the book. Even if you just search love in the book, the word comes up about 70-something times. So he doesn't shy away from the topic or the word or the meaning of love. He uses it for, like you said before,
transparently, just like
absolutely. He says
put it out there.
The people he's loved in his life, the Mecca. He talks about how much he loved the Mecca. His teachers, absolutely. And even when he's one of the girls he fell in love with, when he's talking about the girl with the dreads, she teaches Coates that loving is an act of heroism. I thought that was very important.
Yeah, very, because love, it can shape you in ways that some things can't, and build you.
I feel love comes in many forms, and an act of heroism is another show of love. And just speaking on the topic of love, period, you can see that love forms in different lights. Like, you have to figure out, especially when you're dealing with the people in your life, you have to figure out what it is that that person needs, what type of love from them. And I think that's what Ta-Nehisi was going through with the different people in this book. He figured out what kind of love to give each and every one of them, and realized that each person needed a different kind of love.
One thing on that is when he's talking about his teachers, he said at one point, a quote from the book is, I love a few of my teachers, but I cannot say that I truly believe them. Which it shows, like, I care for these people, you know, they taught me some things, but I can't trust the corruption in the education system, specifically towards African Americans in the USA.
I mean, even James Baldwin speaks of that. He speaks of, you know, even though we are being taught things and we should aim for education, educational barriers, and break those barriers, that we shouldn't even trust those educational barriers. We should find out things for our own self.
And I mean, even throughout the book, even though in this book, he's giving his son Samori all this education, all this teaching, all this love, that he says, okay, I'm giving this to you, but understand that in giving it to you, I'm not telling you this is law, this is how your life's going to go.
It's
that
saying
you're going to have to
learn your own,
you have to learn your
life.
own way, because it's not going to be the same, you know?
Yeah.
But let me give you some of what I've gone through.
Absolutely.
So perhaps in me telling you this, that you'll learn, you'll take some of it, you don't take everything and be like, this is law, but you'll take some of it and you'll say, okay, I remember my dad told me this, we did this, okay, let me see how I can finagle and, you know, work my own life and growing up.
And speaking about education and the education system, he definitely, the reason he loves the Mecca is because of its plethora of knowledge and people and everything. But prior to that, when he was in Baltimore, he talks about how educators tried to convince him that the way to be educated was to have an extra number 2 pencil and to work quietly and to not ask questions, not to be curious, not to try to learn on your own, just do the work that we say you have to do, which is not the same for everyone. That he's talking about from strictly a black perspective. And it shows the differences between what black America in the education system was like and white America, and how they expected African Americans to be to be mediocre. That was their expectation, and that's kind of what they wanted people to strive for. And that's, I think, why he loved the Mecca so much, because it didn't have that expectation of mediocrity. It had an expectation
of exemplary.
Exactly. Of being exceptional.
And not only exceptional, it's also the beacon of hope for them.
The beacon of hope, yeah, he says it.
Not only because it's exceptional in the fact that it teaches standards at a different standard than what was expected of black people, but it's also the fact that it's being taught by black people.
And
you're surrounded by black love, and I think that was the difference in a lot. When you go to different universities, you don't really see that many black faces.
Ivy League.
Right, an Ivy League school. Thanks.
And he, even though Prince himself, he grew up in these very he went to like these very where he was a place where he was the only black one, and she was setting him up for, you know, like, one day you're gonna be the only black one. You come go to these Ivy Leagues and you're gonna be there. You're gonna do this and work. But instead, only college he ended up applying to was Howard, and he went to Howard. And he says he asked Ta-Nehisi Coates. He asked her, like, do you think in going here, like, you know, that it was bad? It was not bad. It was do you ever like regret it? He's like, oh no, of course not, because I saw what happened when he went there, and I saw how he grew up, and I saw, I was like, wow. And he talks a bit. She says, he said, Princeton not applied to Howard nor Princeton nor Yale nor Columbia. This is page 142. No, in part 3, he says, he only wanted the Mecca. I asked Dr. Jones if she regretted Prince choosing Howard. She gasped. It was as though I had pushed too hard on a bruise. No, she said, I regret that he is dead. She said this was the great composure and great pain. She said this with all the odd poise and direction that the great American injury demands of you. Have you ever taken a hard look at those pictures from the sit-ins in the 60s, a hard, serious look? Have you ever looked at the faces? The faces are neither nor angry, nor sad, nor joyous. They betray almost no emotion, you know? And it's like, by going to Howard, you know, he's learned all this stuff about what it means to be black, because all his life he's been in schools with. He learned the white education, you know. And when I brought up the part where he talks about, you know, the sit-ins and stuff like that, they betray no emotion because they've learned, you know. And I mean, it supersedes anything I can say. Like, that's so profound.
On the idea of white education, when he talks about how when he learned about the Civil War, it was kind of glossed over, and how representations of it seemed obscured and changed and different. And also, even when he was growing up, teachers always seemed to show the non-violent activists having their bodies destroyed, being hosed down with fire hoses and attacked by dogs, and they would show this. And the way a lot of people, I think, correctly perceive it is that they were trying to cover up the fact that they were trying to instill fear in people who are thinking about being like that, in the early education system at least. So I think it was evident that his change to the Mecca, how different it was from growing up with these kind of white education values while being black. You know what I mean?
So I want to ask you a question. I'm going to first read this excerpt on page 82 in She Enrolled in Me. He says, now at night I held you in a great fear, wide as all of our American generations took me. Now I personally understood my father and the old mantra, either I can beat him or the police. I understood it all, the cable wires, the extension cords, the ritual switch. Black people love their children with a kind of obsession. You are all we have, and you come to us endangered. I think we would like to kill you ourselves before seeing you killed by the streets that America made. My question to you is, what is the significance of that quote? What is he saying in that quote about, it's not just about beating your children, black people beating their children, but also about the role of a father? And
so I think where he's coming from in that text, when he starts to realize that his son, he's going to have to beat them, and all the beatings that he's taken in the past is not from a place of anger, but a place of love, a place of sternness. And it also speaks to the black community and their relationship with the church, because that we all know that the church is another mecca for the black community. It speaks to their soul. It's where they go to get refuge and peace. So therefore, when we're talking about the church and obeying the laws of the church, we know that black people always say, spare the rod or spoil the child, which is where he's coming from. He would rather spare the rod, which means that he would rather beat his son, even though it takes from him to hit him and to see him in pain. He'd rather give him that pain in knowing that it won't spoil him later and the streets would have to beat him down.
And in beating his child and doing it first, it will strengthen him.
Right.
So when he goes out there and have to face the police who are coming down with him with batons and people who have come to take his body, that he already has, he said, okay, well I don't feel this pain because my father beat me before.
It's not that he wants it to happen, it's just he knows that it could happen at any moment, you know? And it's also, it's not just out of a place of love, it's also out of a place of fear. You know, he's seen this happen to so many people around him, you know what I mean? And he doesn't want it to happen to his son, you know? So it's about teaching him, but it's also like, if I do this to you, you know, it'll hurt, it's gonna sting, but tomorrow you'll be okay. And if somebody else does this to you, you might not be okay. So it's important that you get this now, you know? So I thought that speaks volumes to like how much he loves his son.
Yeah, back to love again.
Yeah, I mean,
they're so interconnected. Yeah.
I mean, part of, before I go into the next question, I just want to point out, he said, black people love their children with a kind of obsession.
Yeah.
It's like, you know.
I mean, it also speaks, it speaks to the opposite as well. I know it doesn't have anything to do with the books per se, but black people love their children with kind of obsession, but then you also look at how white people love their kids, and it's a difference.
Yeah.
And how we show that love.
We're invested, like it's literally you are their investment, because they know that, especially with black people that did not make it and did not get everything done the way they want to. So it speaks to that, because they're like, it shows them that you are my hope for the future. I have nothing else but you. Think about
after I give you
my mother's parents. They gave birth. My grandmother on my mother's side had 19 children.
Damn.
19 children. 12 of them survived. There was nothing else left to give afterwards, even though we were from a different country. And my mother always tells me she had nothing, but she worked hard to put me through something, so that I can now go forward and give back to her. It's all about giving back. It's a black person's child. It's an investment.
it's like,
Unlike where it's also a lot of burden to carry, seriously, because when you think about, for a white person's child, they can live free of that burden, because they know they have certain things to fall back on, certain measures to fall back on. But when you look at in the black community, there's nothing to fall back on. You have to succeed. You have to succeed. You can't be a burden. So that's
because you carry the weight of everyone behind you. When you leave out that door, you're going to those, like when they go to college, it's like you go to college, you don't fail at none of those classes, because we have literally given up everything to get you to this point. So now you have to carry us there. And then when you get there, your children, your people who you will give into, if you don't have children, they will carry the family the next step. And it's all about getting to that next step. And after getting that step, getting there and sustaining it, not just getting there and just going, it's getting there, sustaining it, so that when we get low, we don't fall back down the stairs. So my next question, it's kind of an intersection between all of our different topics. To me, this book in itself was, it's the most explicit portrayal of love throughout the whole book. I mean, the love, just to write something for someone. Not just to write like a couple, it's one thing. Yeah, and it's not just like a couple of pages. Like you say, okay, I write this little letter here. It's 152 pages of love to his son. And my question is, how does this portrayal of love, how does this ultimate portrayal, how does this book, him writing this book, connect with education, connect with the role of father, and how through this book he is showing Samori, his son, what it means to love, what it means to be educated, what it means to be a father, and what it means just to be in general.
You're answering your
I know, right? I can't help
Answering
it.
the question.
But connect it with education.
When we're looking at this book, the entire book speaks to love. He thinks beyond himself because he put himself out there. He showed his son his life. Like, he was very open with him, which is unusual for
And vulnerable. Vulnerability.
For not only a father but a black father, and he's trying to show his son that a difference. Though, you know,
vulnerability is not it's not something that's
weakness,
bad.
right?
It's
But
not
it's not
weakness.
easy.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. Very
Right.
difficult.
But it's something
Most
important.
people can't put themselves like that to their son of all people.
Yeah.
But I think just the fact that it's to his son, it's not just like, this is my love to you. It's also, it's a teaching. It's an education. The whole book, he's like, this is what happened in my life, you know, and this could happen in your life. So I want you to be on the lookout for all this. But it's love. It's a teaching. It's education. But it's also, he talks about his own father. He tells his son about his own father, and he tells his son about his own life. He's trying to teach. I guess he's trying to, in a way, make it so if his son has to explain something like this to his own child one day, he would do it even better. Like, it's kind of like his dad beat him with the belt because of this, and he always questioned it. He always questioned the belt, like, why do we have to do this? But he grows up to understand.
That you have to do it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just a teaching process down the line from father to his son, you know? So it shows the power of the role of the father in a black family as well.
Right.
And he also talks about, at one part, like the kind of animosity he has for the fathers who skip out on their family.
Yeah.
When he's talking about the girl from Chicago, and she never had a father, and he talks about these, I think he calls them cowards. He might call them something else. But he talks about, like, you know, it's your job. You know, how can you not love your child as much as I love my child? You know, and it pisses him off, truly.
It actually it's bittersweet.
Yeah.
It's bittersweet because he can see that because his father was in his life.
Yeah.
He can see that because he has an example of where to come from, and I think that's the difference for him. He has an example of where to come from to be a father, and now he knows where
Very
he's
true,
going to be a father. And when we speak to the different themes in this book, we know that altogether this book is love because he's showing his son everything. He's trying to teach his son that I love you and this is why I'm doing this. It speaks to education because he wants his son to go beyond everything. He wants his son to excel and to pass mediocrity.
Absolutely.
Even though and it speaks to the role of the father because everything in this is just a bonding of the father and son altogether.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good way to sum it up.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you for Daniel.
Thank you for having me.
This was, I mean, this conversation superseded anything I could think of. I mean, this book, Between the World and Me,
We could have gone on for another hour, honestly.
Yeah, definitely required reading that Toni Morrison says because you learn so much about.
Yeah.
I mean, what we talked about just now was like little steps. I feel like there's like
There's
100
so
million
much.
steps.
You could talk
There's
that
so
long
many
about
angles.
each page.
Yeah.
There's so many angles. There's more to see.
Yeah.
So we're gonna end on that note, right?
Yeah. And thank you for joining us. See you next time.